Thanks for joining us again in studio as we continue our series of interviews with candidates who will be on the ballot in Framingham in early November for the municipal election. My name is Brendan Fitzpatrick, and I'm joined in studio today by Brent Lewis. He is one of the two candidates who will be on the ballot for the school committee seat in District 6. Brent, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, before we get into your background and your priorities and whatnot, I just want to be 100% on the record, clear with folks here today. Brent is a member of the AFTV board here at Access Framingham. No conflict of interest there. Just wanted to be completely on the record with that and totally clear before we continue. So with that out of the way, Brent, I wanted to learn more about your background for people who may not be aware. What is that background and how did you get involved in this District 6 school committee race?
Sure, and let me start as an Access Framingham board just to praise and thank you all for the work you're doing, making municipal elections accessible and transparent to folks and really helping the candidates get their messages out. It's an important service that you're all providing. My name's Brent Lewis. I've lived in Framingham for over a dozen years now. My husband and I, Jack Patrick Lewis, who, yes, that's Representative Jack Patrick Lewis, as we were looking for somewhere to settle and put down roots in Massachusetts, we knew we wanted a multicultural community. We were wanting to raise a family through adoption, and we wanted a place that no matter what identities our kids had, that they would find a welcoming community. And so we really settled down in Framingham and have been happy here ever since.
How about your professional background? Anything there that you think might be able to translate well onto the school committee?
Sure. I have worked for the last decade or so at the Unitarian Universalist Association, which is a religious denomination dedicated to justice and equity. And a lot of those values guide my principles, including a dedication to public service and education, but also equity, making sure that all of our students have access to the same education and can succeed as well as they can.
Now, I understand this is your first big dive into politics, whether it's at the local level or above that. So far on this campaign trail, a couple of months into it, are there any lessons that you've learned from your own experience or potentially, and you mentioned it yourself, from your husband, Representative Lewis, who may have taught you a thing or two throughout this process?
It is helpful to have a seasoned campaign expert in the House, I will say. But public service and running for office has been something that I've long wanted to do. Jack and I are engaged in the political process, and it's something that we both, just the ability of local government to impact people's lives is so rich. Now that my kids are older, they need less of me, and so I've been looking at ways to give back to the community. You mentioned the Access Framingham Board. I also serve on the Framingham Public Library Foundation that helps fundraise for capital projects. And when I learned Valerie Ottaviani, who is the current District 6 school committee member, wasn't running, I knew that this was something I wanted to do.
When was that decision officially made in your mind that you were going to go all in for this position?
When I pulled papers.
Was that day? That was it? You decided you went right in?
Running for political office is a big decision. It's a big commitment to the district that you're representing. And for folks with competitive campaigns, it's a lot of work. But this is how I wanted to give back.
You mentioned some experience within, local libraries and whatnot. Mm-hmm. What specifically about the school committee jumped out to you to say that this is the position that I wanted to throw my hat in the ring for?
I mentioned it, but I have two kids who are Framingham Public School kids. I have a 10th grader at the high school, a 7th grader at Walsh. Both of them went to Barbarian Blocks in the 2A Spanish program, which is really one of the gifts of Framingham Public Schools, that and the Portuguese English program. So I'm deeply invested in making sure that our schools have the resources that they need to educate all of our students.
And I think that's a good transition into some of your top priorities. Mm-hmm. If you are eventually successful in your bid for the District 6 seat on the school committee, what would be some of the top priorities that you look to be enacting?
Things that I've been talking a lot about throughout the campaign, and I'll touch briefly on these, are budgeting. For anyone that's followed the municipal budget, that process was difficult. We had to make some cuts to the Framingham school budget. Shortly after that process was finished, we learned that $1.2 million in grants from the Federal Department of Education was frozen. Ultimately, those funds were released, but it highlights the precariousness that we find ourselves in as decisions made at the federal level are impacting our school level. And that includes things like inflation and tariffs, which are making repairing roofs and keeping our schools in good working order more expensive. And so as we move forward, one of my priorities will be making sure that our students and teachers have what they need to teach our students, because that is the priority and the goal of Framingham Public Schools and the responsibility of the school committee.
You mentioned there, the communication that the school committee has with both the mayor's office, the city council, all other facets of the municipal government. And you kind of touched upon it there in terms of a difficult process. I forget exactly what word you used there, but generally it was that. I wanted to hear from you what you think about how the relationship between the school committee and the rest of the Memorial Building, City Hall, has been in recent years. What communications or strategies, what facets do you think are going well, and what are some things that you think might have to change, and something that you would maybe be looking to change if you're eventually elected?
I think the relationship between the school committee and the other elected officials in Framingham is absolutely essential. To be able to work without personality getting in the way, to work towards constructive solutions, is going to be incredibly important as we move forward and consider certain building projects and what's coming down the line. I have a good relationship and know many of these folks that are running for office or who are currently in office that I think will serve me well. But also just my my personality is pretty easygoing. I will hold to my values and statements, but I want to work towards active solutions with anyone who will.
You'll be on the ballot against Eddie Rodriguez in District 6. In the last couple of weeks, days, months, have you gotten a chance to connect with Eddie, and have you been able to identify any positions that you actually might agree with Eddie on, and then conversely, anything where you see you might be splintering from him when you're on the ballot with him?
So let me start this. Highlighting of differences can sometimes feel contentious, so let me just say thank you first to the candidates that are running for office, including Eddie Rodriguez. As I said, it's no small thing to put yourself out there or to run a competitive campaign. I think some of the policies based on the campaign material I've seen, I haven't had a chance to speak with him. We both have a strong commitment to expanding pre-K, which is something I know the school administration also shares. I know we both want improved busing for our kids. It's absolutely essential that kids get to school on time and parents know where their kids are. Looking at his content, some areas I would highlight where there is difference. One of his campaign priorities is to monitor Framingham public school success through performance scores. And at first glance, I would agree with that on face value, but the way we do that is important. Often performance scores get boiled down to MCAS. As a parent who's seen their kids go to school dreading the MCAS and coming home drained, and as a resident of Massachusetts that participated in the conversation we had on the ballot initiative removing MCAS as a requirement for graduation, I realized that there are better metrics for success for our schools, things that frankly the administration is monitoring. MCAS scores are part of it, but certainly attendance and also some of the positive things like how many high schoolers are taking AP courses and what their scores are. So it may not be a tremendous difference, but it's certainly a nuanced one.
I did want to kind of dive deeper on that, considering that, like you had just mentioned, that was put to the vote for Massachusetts voters, the MCAS requirement to graduate high school. You mentioned one or two of them, but I wanted to hear if there are any more specifics in terms of monitoring that student progress that you think should be instituted here within Framingham locally.
So this will be a conversation that the school committee will be having. Ann Ludis, our vice superintendent, is now charged, along with the school committee, with creating a new framework and guidance for determining if a student has met the qualifications to graduate. It's something that, because of the ballot initiative, each school will need to do. So the school committee will be working on that, and we'll see more.
And it just goes from there.
Yes.
Yeah, and especially after this election, I'm sure that'll be a big part of it going forward. One of the big words within Framingham politics, Brent, whether it's someone who's running for office or a constituent of any of the districts across the city, is transparency. I wanted to know what you think the state of transparency within the municipal political system is right now, and anything that you think might have to be improved on that front to ensure that citizens, residents, voters are getting as much transparent information as possible.
Massachusetts state law dictates a lot of things at the municipal level that ensure transparency. I think part of the issue is there's always so much going on in Framingham. We are a large school district. We're an active and vibrant city. And so communication, I think, is part and parcel in what I would focus on as a school committee member. And we have some really great examples of elected officials who have communication with their constituents regularly. Valerie Ottaviani, one of our city councilors, regularly sends postcards highlighting events happening in our city. Leora Malik has a newsletter that highlights what what the city council is up to. And certainly Adam Freudberg deserves huge praise. When the school released the busing information late on a Friday night, and parents were floundering to figure out where they found out if their kid had a bus and if not, what to do. Adam created this fantastic video that walked parents through the steps and what was next. And that's something as a school committee member that I would want to commit to as well. As an elected official, we have an obligation to be a connection and a conduit of information to our constituents.
We're still a handful of weeks away from Election Day, November 4th. We're sitting here in the studio about mid-September for folks who are watching. With that in mind, a couple of weeks to go, when Election Day does come, when people are filling out their ballots, what would be the one thing you would want them to think about when they see this school committee race in District 6?
I think the real strength I would bring to a school committee seat is my years of experience with Framingham Public Schools. As someone who has had kids in the system for 12 years, I've experienced a lot of the strengths and also some of the bumps along the road. That's not to say that I know all the stories, but my connections to other parents and hearing their stories, I think really gives me an advantage. As a school committee requires a great deal of learning. Our system, as I mentioned, is vast, but I think that gives me a leg up and would help me be an effective school committee member.
And again, folks, that's Brent Lewis. He is on the ballot for the District 6 seat on the Framingham School Committee. Again, Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th. Until then, Brent, thanks for coming in today to speak with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks again for joining us in the studio as our candidate interview series continues. My name is Brendan Fitzpatrick, and I'm pleased to be joined by Eddie Rodriguez today. He is in the running for the District 6 seat on the Framingham School Committee. Eddie, thanks for joining us today on this rainy day. I don't know if people are going to be able to hear the rain or the thunder or not, but either way, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, right in the storm. Yeah, look, thanks for having me.
I wanted to learn more about your background, especially for people who may not be aware. Tell us about that background and how you got involved in this race in District 6.
Yeah, so background, my name is Eddie Rodriguez, born and raised here in Framingham. Grew up on Kendall Street downtown. Could see City Hall from my house. My parents were town meeting members. My mom has had a beauty salon here for over 35 years in downtown. They taught me a lot of things, but working hard, work ethic was important. Education was always really important in my house. They made sacrifices to make sure that me and my brother really had the best education that they could provide, continue to educate ourselves. So I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about how education can open doors for all families. But I'm really passionate about how, especially families with backgrounds like mine, it can open doors. It can help them move forward socioeconomically. And, I attended Barberry. I attended Walsh, the bilingual program, the two-way program. Great program, very supportive. Had a good experience there. Graduated from Marion High School, where I met my wife, graduated from Providence College after that, and career-wise, I'm a commercial financing advisor, helping secure funding for my small and medium-sized business clients. And obviously, me and my wife settled down here. We've got a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn as of the last few weeks. So it's a busy house. I'm also a caregiver for my father, who was disabled at the age of 53 by early onset Alzheimer's. Long days, and it takes a special level of discipline to make all the trains run on time. So as far as what went into the decision for me running for school committee now, this kind of starts a little bit in 2020. Obviously, the pandemic created a lot of challenges for everybody in 2020, and it created a lot of unique challenges for the school district, and we're still trying to recover from that. I saw how some kids, subsets of kids, unfortunately, got disproportionately hit harder, and just the way the river flowed. I mean, they didn't quite have the same support structure for remote learning, And fast forward 5 years later, we still haven't recovered back to that pre-pandemic baseline in terms of proficiency scores, performance scores, student achievement scores. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm running, because I want to be part of the solution on that. I want to be able to help everybody break through on that and get beyond that. But I had been keeping a gauge on the schools over the years, especially having our kids and knowing that they were going to be going to the schools and us preparing for that. And then the MBTA Communities Act became a central focus in our community last year. And by September of 2024, I really came to the realization that Framingham, all of us, we were at a really important crossroads, and that we all were going to have a healthy anticipation that we were going to have a substantial growth in development, a substantial growth in population growth, and invariably the student enrollment growth that comes with that. So I looked at the numbers. I looked at where we were going to go, and there was a sense of urgency that welled up inside of me. And I said I wasn't going to fix myself into what that specific role looked like, but I wanted to be part of the solution. I wanted to start taking action. I get on the team and start helping in that regard. So I started in September 2024. Started making phone calls. Started speaking to anyone and everyone that I could that could impart any feedback, any input. Started talking to teachers, teachers' aides, staff, administration, the superintendent. I started speaking to students, family members, parents, coaches, city council members, school committee members, just to get a good idea, size up what we were looking at, potentially identify bottlenecks that were limiting us from where we wanted to be, all the results that we want to achieve. And I learned a lot, and I'm grateful for everybody who shared that information with me. But one piece of consistent feedback that I kept receiving was, if the opportunity opens up, if the position opens up, a good role for you to get into would be the District 6 School Committee seat. So sure enough, Valerie Ottaviani, who I appreciate all her contributions and her service in that seat, she decided to move on to other endeavors and did not seek re-election. So after some reflection, meditation, prayer, and people really asking me to represent them on some key priorities that would move the school district forward, I decided I'd pull papers. I decided that I would run, and that's what I'm committed to, is representing my constituents on these key priorities.
Now, with that background in mind, how do you think that can translate to the school committee if you do eventually end up winning in November?
I would say that the background is a few things. There's the unique perspective of having that lived experience of being a Framinghammer, going through that arc. There's also, one piece of this is, 48% of our school enrollment is Latino. Having that bilingual background and being a representative to that too. Obviously, my main priority is to be representative and serve the constituents of District 6, but there is that side as well. I see myself in the faces of a lot of our students, and having been through that arc, I think that when I'm collaborating with the school committee and being in the subcommittee meetings, rolling up my sleeves and having to really evaluate certain things and reconcile certain things, I think that viewpoint's important. Then my skill set in terms of what I've done career-wise in the private sector, the sense of urgency, the results-based focus, and everything I've had to train on in terms of communication. Communication is going to be really important. I think this year going forward, with everything that we're trying to do from a school committee basis, administration basis, it's about quantity of touches in communication. It's about deepening the level of communication between all of us and really having a new level of engagement between parents and students, the schools, the administration, the school committee. I think that I am equipped and I'm definitely determined to bring all of those tools into that role.
You've mentioned a lot of things regarding communication, and you just outlined that as one of the top priorities should you end up winning this seat. On top of that, what are some of your other priorities during this campaign?
Yeah, great question. So, what I would say, I'd preface this with saying is, these are not necessarily my priorities that are coming exactly from me. I've really tried to tried to seek out and engage the constituency to identify what it is that they believe are the key priorities that are going to move our district forward. So I see myself as a steward and executor or representative of these key priorities. And those priorities, look, it starts, who hasn't talked about it? It's reliable transportation, it's the buses running on time. Obviously, we've made great steps. I'm really grateful and appreciative to everybody who's worked hard to get us to where we are right now. It's not perfect, but it's a huge step in the right direction. Bringing it in-house is giving us the opportunity to really get our destiny under our control in that regard. But it is going to take a little bit of time to smooth that out. It's the beginning, it's a transition, there's going to be some lumps, but my commitment, my determination is to get on the school committee and help smooth that out sooner rather than later, have a shorter cycle time, because it's impacting academic performance. Kids shouldn't have to be held back in terms of their academic performance because they're not getting to school at all or getting to school late. Also, the economic and the family disruption part, parents shouldn't have to make a decision whether they're going to go into work or go into work late. So the faster we get that to be a standardized process, not just in District 6, but across all the districts, across the entire city, we are going to be much better positioned to get a better school experience, better performance, and we can long-term plan. Because if we're in this day by day just trying to make the buses work, it's very low. I really see it as like a foundational base in this pyramid of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We got to get beyond that. So that's number one. Number two, it's safety defined by zero little violence in our schools, our hallways, our buses, our bus stops, anywhere between kids. That's important. The third, really important, I really am an advocate for, and I really want to come onto the school committee and encourage us to strive for an academic excellence that's beyond where we've been in Framingham. When it comes to that specifically, what does academic excellence mean? Well, look, first step is we got to recover past our pre-pandemic levels of performance, proficiency, and student achievement. I can understand and appreciate the sentiment that, Framingham, we shouldn't be, it's not appropriate to compare ourselves to some of the surrounding communities, but by the way, all the surrounding communities have recovered past those pre-pandemic levels. We still have not, but it's not appropriate to compare ourselves to an Ashland or a Natick or a Sudbury or what have you. And I can totally understand that. We've got a diverse community, we've got a big community, we've got 72,000 people, but that being said, once we get beyond that, and I really do believe this is a breakthrough year, that we will make those massive strides. We've got Ann Lutz coming back in as assistant superintendent. She's going to be a massive player in this. But once we get beyond that, we have to chart a new course. We have to have a collective vision. It's one of the reasons we talked a little bit offline about the YouTube videos. I made a YouTube video about, what the school committee is and why it's important to the public. And we have to have a collective vision of where we want to go, and we have to make it measurable, because we're a city now, and maybe it's as simple as saying there's 50 cities in the state of Massachusetts, and let's shoot to be in the top 10 of cities in terms of academic performance within 5 to 10 years. Or maybe it's cities above the population level of 50,000. Let's aim to be in the top 5 or the top 10 over the next 5 to 10 years, because there's a galvanizing energy, there's an energization that happens when we have a target that we can move towards, and you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. You have a tough time making an accurate shot if you don't know where the bullseye is. And I know that the superintendent and the administration, by speaking to them, they're working on figuring out what's the appropriate rubric that they measure this by. They have the DESE standards, which are important. But I'd really love for us to have some sort of target that we can all get a cohesion around and we can get behind. And, I got to say this. Roger Bannister, he broke the 4-minute mile May 6, 1954, okay? And there's the Bannister effect. And when he did do that, as the story goes, 2,000 years had gone by, nobody broke the 4-minute mile. Nobody got it sub 4 minutes. It was like 4:01, whatever it was. And when he broke the 4-minute mile, they asked him, what did you do? The first step, he said, was, I committed myself that I would do it. I didn't know how, but I would commit myself that I would do it, and I believed I could do it. Then he said, I started visualizing. I started visualizing myself crossing the finish line. I start with sub 4 minutes. Then I started visualizing every detail of the race. And in those consistent repetitions of visualization, what came to him, an insight, was in his visualizations, he was striking the ground much more often than his usual gait. And it occurred to him, maybe I have to start shifting the way that I train. I have to start shifting the way that I run so that I have a different gait. Everybody said, you're crazy. It's not going to happen. Well, he did. He started training a different way. Lo and behold, May 6, 1954, he breaks the 4-minute mile. Nobody had done it for 2 years. Well, you know what? The following year, 26 people broke the 4-minute mile. And now, as we're speaking right now, there's a 12-year-old girl somewhere running a sub 4-minute mile in track practice. So what does that mean, the Bannister effect? I had heard, and it's not to put down anything, but I had heard a few school committee meetings ago, I heard, well, Framingham Public Schools are never going to be one of the best school districts in Massachusetts, but you know what, I think that's a limiting belief, and I think we can at least commit to a higher level of excellence that's measurable and start moving towards that sustainably over time, whether it's 5, 10, 15 years. So that's important. And I'm sorry, I'm going to shut up. But the next priority that I'm hearing from people is expanded pre-K offerings, and especially from young parents. So the studies and the case studies, the research continually shows that 4-year-olds who have a pre-K experience are obviously much more prepared, have a propensity to have higher academic scores, student performance, but also the psychosocial, the emotional effects, able to be more adaptable, be able to engage in the classroom, engage with their peers, engage with the community at a higher level. And that is something that we've already taken great strides. The private-public partnership that they went ahead and rolled out in 2021 to get the YMCA and bring in the Framingham State and bring in Loving Nest. That was a great idea. We tapped some of the resources that were already in our community. We got creative, and doing more of that, we just got a grant, $750,000 back on June 30th from the state of Massachusetts to continue that. So that's something that we have to methodically work towards expanding that so we can get more 4-year-olds in our pre-K program for a higher level of preparedness, a higher level of literacy before getting to kindergarten. It's going to be a huge return on investment for our schools and for our community. You know, you talk about the 80-20 principle, Pareto principle. If there was 20% of our inputs will typically create 80% of the outputs that we desire. So if you talk about one big lever that long-term creates 80% of the benefits, the results that we want in terms of lowering the chronic absenteeism that Dr. Tremblay said it was going to be a huge priority for him fixing this year. Lowering, and the schools running on time is going to help that a lot. You know, fixing lowering the dropout rate, and also it helps teachers get through their curriculums. It helps us with this turnover that we've had at teachers and at principals. So it is something that is super important. It's super important for me as well. And then the last thing here is this expanded communication and transparency. You hear it all the time. We want more transparency. And I think we need to go out to the public. Parents are busy, families are busy. It's hard for them to be plugged into what's going on, but we kind of have to nudge them a little bit. And it's not just about hearing what you don't want or what you don't like. We have to really be deliberate and ask, what would you like to see realized in the school district? As we have a collective vision, and we can translate that over to the school committee can translate that over, and it can be codified into objectives for the superintendent. We are going to get better results. You know, 3,000 years ago in the book of Proverbs, it was written, where there is no vision, the people perish. So we have to have that collective vision. So that's it.
That's all, that whole thing there, the whole spiel. I was going to ask you about transparency, but you touched it upon yourself there. I did want to ask you, you'll be on the ballot against Brent Lewis in early November. Have you been able to identify any topics or issues or points that you actually align with Brent on, and then conversely, anywhere that you might differ from your opponent?
Yeah, look, as far as Brent, I haven't seen anything that I would disagree with overtly. I think that we would agree on most of all these priorities in terms of moving our school district forward. I haven't had a chance to sit down with him, and I'm sure at some point we'll get to catch up. But I think we would align on most of these items here. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not running against Brent Lewis. I'm running for the seat to get in there and to affect positive change on all these priorities. We just happen to pull papers the same day. So what I can say is I have a deep respect and appreciation and admiration for anyone who runs for office, because it demonstrates that they care and that they're willing to do the work to serve and represent constituents to improve our city, improve our schools, improve our kids' school experience. So, yeah.
Of course, the school committee goes hand in hand with a lot of the different moving parts within City Hall, the mayor's office, the city council, all that. I wanted to hear from you what you think has gone well between the communications, the relationship between the school committee and the rest of the leaders at City Hall, and then anything that you think might need to be tweaked in the coming years if you are to represent District 6 on the school committee.
Yeah, what I would say is I think that we're a young city, and having the city council, the school committee, this is something that there are new dynamics that we've been encountering every year, and we're working to find our way. You know, some people say it's a fledgling city. Yeah, we're still trying to get our wings in that. I think that everybody on the school committee, city council, whether it's communication between themselves, communication out into the public, I think everybody there is trying to improve that every day, and I think it's going to continue to improve. Of course, me getting on the school committee, I'm all about communication. I am all about asking questions, really trying to identify some specifics and bring specifics to every conversation. And transparency is important to me. You know, D6 is a little special because my city side counterpart would be City Council Chair Ottaviani, and you know, I believe I have a good relationship with Phil, and I believe I would have a great working relationship with Phil, him on city side and me in the school committee. And Phil Ottaviani and Eddie Rodriguez, I think, is a good 1-2 punch. Main thing, I'm all about high touch. I want to engage whoever it may be, all stakeholders, and I'm not afraid to get different viewpoints, even if they seemingly contradict each other, because oftentimes when we dig a little bit deeper and we do a little bit more work, there's actually a lot in common there, and there's some places where the intersection can help people. It's about engaging, really deliberately getting feedback from people, because people are busy, but we have a lot of talent. We have exceptional people, we have intelligent people, we have passionate people here in Framingham. I don't have all the answers, and City Hall, there's not one person that has all the answers, but if we collectively engage with each other, the answers will come and we will move forward faster.
Leading into this race in early November, as people are getting ready to fill out their ballots, whether it's at the polls, mail-in, you name it, what would be the one thing you would want voters to think about when they see this school committee race?
Well, first, I want people to get energized. I want people to get excited. Whether I'm on the school committee or not, this is going to be a breakthrough year. There's a lot of energy, and it's all about refining it and focalizing it in a positive and an encouraging way. I want people to think of my campaign as positive, encouraging. I want people to see the passion behind it, but also the work ethic, the emphasis on communication, on transparency, and I want people to engage more than anything else with their city councilors, with their school committee members. Understand that the responsibility is on us in terms of the vision of where we go. And where the school district goes is where the rest of the city goes. So even if you don't have kids in the school district, show up, participate, vote, and vote for who you feel most comfortable with, who you feel has the best interest on the priorities of the constituents, who you feel is going to have the skill set to get in there and really do the work and roll up their sleeves in those subcommittees or what have you. I encourage everybody to, let's all work together. There's been a little bit of divisiveness around this, and this has been a kind of a polarizing topic. I want us to all come together, really be a Manhattan project of just let's commit to a higher level of excellence, and we will continue to figure it out. Ann Lude's coming back in the fold is going to be huge. She's going to be doing some great things. It's going to free up Dr. Tremblay to do some great things. And I'm excited about this year. This is going to be a breakthrough year. And yeah, thank you. I appreciate everybody's engagement with me that I've already had. I'd like to keep hearing from people, please.
Of course. And again, folks, that's Eddie Rodriguez. He's one of the 2 candidates for the school committee seat in District 6 that will be decided in early November. Until then, Eddie, thank you very much for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for everything that you're doing. This is a great service to the public of Framingham, and you guys are doing a really great job. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.